he going to Turkey, Al Sheikh, and letting him know that I was interested in fighting Canelo. And him and a lot of people at first, they was like, nah, he's too big. You need to, focus on your weight class and things like that. But at the time, I'm like, well, there's no one at my weight class that's on that level of Canelo. Canelo comes from a smaller weight class. He's not a massive fighter, 6 foot tall. He's thick, but he's not giant. Picking Canelo was a thing that we looked deeply into.
It's almost time for the highly anticipated showdown between Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford, and the boxing world can't stop debating how this fight might unfold.
Nothing you're going to be able to do about it come fight night.
I know Turkey's in your corner,
I promise you.
But look, it's going to be very difficult. He's going to be so mad that day. Believe me.
I see you. I see you. You see I'm different.
I see you too.
Legends, past opponents, and even trainers all feel compelled to weigh in. Everyone has something to say because this is one of those rare matches where skill, size, history, and legacy all collide on the same page. With the fight now drawing near, so many voices have chimed in, each bringing their unique experience with one or both men, and together they paint a fascinating picture of what could unfold.
I've always went with Crawford this fight. It's nothing against Canelo, because Canelo's a hell of a fighter. I don't know how he is as a person. Neither guy. I don't know how neither of them are as a person. But I like Crawford for challenging himself. Like, that's the type of things I do, and I've done. So I like anybody that's willing to challenge themselves, whether it's money or not. You still have the heart to go in there and challenge the bigger guy. So, but I think it's gonna be. I think if Crawford uses his boxing ability, then it'd be a better fight for him. If Crawford wins, then it makes his resume 10 times better.
Sergey Kovalev knows better than most what happens when you're locked in a ring with Canelo. In 2019, he was taught by Alvarez, so he understands the kind of danger the Mexican superstar carries. Yet, despite the memory of that night, Kovalev has respect for Crawford's ability to think his way through fights. What concerns him isn't skill but weight. Crawford is stepping up multiple divisions, and Kovalev has seen what happens when fighters bulk up too much. Added size often steals quickness, and once speed dips, sharpness tends to go with it. In Kovalev's eyes, the smartest fighters often come in a bit under their natural size, keeping that bounce and agility intact.
Terence Crawford, great fighter. I very huge respect to him. I think so. He's the best pound for pound fighter. But if he will move up, he can beat Canelo.
You think so?
Yeah. But I don't know how he will be comfortable, in this division. Mm-hmm. What division they gonna fight?
Super middleweight.
Super middleweight.
So he would move from 154 to 168.
It's too big. He will be slower, because he will be bigger. He will be slower, For a boxing fight. Every boxing should be a little losing weight for speeding, for light moving. It's not good for him, I think so, for Crawford. But that I know that and I see that he can get win.
Why do you feel that, and how does it look like?
By points.
By
points, yeah. Because Canelo will be keep a hands and walking. Crawford very smart and fast, but in his weight division. But nobody knows how he will be feeling in the super middleweight. If he will be in his shape, he will beat Canelo.
Another man with a rare perspective is Amir Khan. He felt that the fists of both Canelo and Crawford and his experiences couldn't have been more different. Against Canelo in 2016, he suffered a highlight reel knockout, one of the most brutal moments of his career. Against Crawford 3 years later, the fight ended in a different kind of disappointment, with his corner pulling him out after an accidental low blow. Despite losing to both men, Khan leans toward Crawford this time. He views him as a fighter with one of the sharpest boxing minds in the sport, someone who can read situations quickly and hit harder than people often admit. To him, Crawford's intelligence, adaptability, and underrated power make him a serious threat even against a proven finisher like Alvarez.
He might be even stronger than Canelo. He might pack the weight on well. That he might do really well in there. So look,
you fought them both. What are the differences between them? Obviously, it's weight.
Canelo's strong and he's easily hit. Very easily hit. Yeah. Compared to when I fought against Crawford, I couldn't even hit. clean. So really, that's the difference. And they both hit hard. Because and you can see the strength. You know, when I was fighting against Crawford, I didn't think Crawford was that strong, but when he kind of moved me around a little bit, he is very strong as well. So look, yeah, but why does he need to give that much away? He's pound for pound #1 in the world. Why does he have to go up and fight Canelo?
Caleb Plant also has first-hand experience of how ruthless Canelo can be, especially at 168 pounds. In 2021, he went into a unification bout with Alvarez only to be stopped late, cementing Canelo's reign as the undisputed super middleweight king. Yet, even after that painful memory, Plant speaks with admiration about Crawford's chances. He doesn't firmly plant his flag on either side, but he recognizes something special in Crawford, an unusual level of determination and grit. In his eyes, mental toughness sometimes matters more than sheer size, and Crawford is the kind of inner drive that can't be measured on a scale.
Terence is not a regular guy, you know what I'm saying? He's special. And, you know, Canelo, he's a top-notch fighter, world-class fighter. Still on the pound-for-pound list, I'm sure towards somewhere near the top, and it's exciting. You know, Terence is freakishly strong. He can punch. He's got good crack. He can fight from both ways. Orthodox, southpaw. He can fight at mid-range, close range, outside, and he can fight going both ways. So it's exciting. It's exciting. It's a big question mark on the end of it, though. So. That's why, you know, I'm sure all of us are excited for that bell to ring and, you know, be able to find out firsthand.
Liam Smith, a rugged veteran from Liverpool who lost his WBO light middleweight belt to Canelo back in 2016, takes a different view. He knows how destructive Alvarez can be after suffering a crushing body shot that ended their fight. When he saw Canelo brought in Jaron Boots Ennis, one of boxing's most feared welterweights, for sparring, Smith took it as a clear signal. Alvarez is taking Crawford extremely seriously. To him, that shows Canelo isn't overlooking the smaller man at all. Smith predicts that eventually Canelo's power and championship experience will prove too much, whether it comes in the form of a late stoppage or a points victory.
How do you think a Crawford fight goes with him?
I just think Canelo's just too big, too solid, walk him down. Same what he done to like Charlo. Just think Canelo competitive early on, but you see him with Crawford and Madrimov, Crawford's strength, and that didn't really play a factor. And Canelo's a bigger, stronger, better fighter than Madrimov.
Erislandy Lara, who pushed Canelo to the limit in a controversial decision years ago, also added his 2 cents. Known for his slick movement and defensive mastery, Crawford that looks a lot like the one he tried himself. The key, he believes, lies in the footwork and range. If Crawford can keep the fight on the outside, control distance, and avoid prolonged exchanges, then he can neutralize some of Canelo's power. On the flip side, if it turns into a close quarters brawl, the advantage tilts heavily toward the Mexican. To Lara, the challenge for Crawford is staying disciplined enough to use his legs, pick moments wisely, and never get dragged into a firefight.
He sees it as a very interesting 50-50 fight. He feels like Canelo's very strong right now, and he wants to figure out to see how Crawford's going to handle the power, especially in the early rounds, and what's going to happen. So yeah, he said he remembers fighting Canelo back 14 years ago it is now. And he said he remembers he uses legs real good, and as long as Crawford uses his legs and he doesn't let Canelo just hit him in the arms and beat him up in the arms, he has a very good chance of fighting.
Tim Bradley brings up another interesting angle, Crawford's memory. He describes Crawford as someone with an almost photographic ability to recall patterns, who studies opponents carefully and makes razor-sharp adjustments mid-fight. In Bradley's mind, this is what separates him from other great fighters. He imagines Crawford spending the first round or 2 downloading data, then gradually turning the tide by exploiting Canelo's habits. Bradley believes this adaptability could be the deciding factor that helps Crawford shock the world.
So Crawford has been working for this for the last year. He's been building. If you know anything about Team Crawford, man, and just anything about Crawford in general, he's probably one of the most disciplined athletes in the entire world. You know, he's a guy that stays in the gym year round, you know, never dull. You know, another guy was Boots. Boots stays in the gym quite a bit too. He does. You know, I hear that from everybody. He's always in the gym. Crawford's the same way. He's a gym rat. Stays in the gym, always constantly doing something, you know, sharpening his tools, you know, working on his craft all the time, keeping a good weight. You know, Crawford, in between camps. You know, he'll probably go up about 20-something pounds, you know, but it don't look bad on him. You know, it doesn't look bad on him. You know, when I had ran into him earlier, before this fight even was announced, you know, I would ask him, I'm like, how much you weigh? About 175. Not crazy, you know, not crazy. No, but he still looked good. It was a 175 in shape. It was a 175 in shape. Like, this dude can go run up and down the court, play basketball, you know? He can go out there and play football if he wanted to go play football, you know? Like, he's an athlete, a natural athlete, man.
Andy Ruiz Jr., who famously pulled off one of boxing's biggest upsets, reminds everyone that styles often matter more than size. While he respects both men, he points out that Canelo has historically struggled with slick southpaws and Crawford fits that mold perfectly. Ruiz thinks the matchup is balanced enough that picking a winner is nearly impossible. But he doesn't ignore how Crawford's stance and high boxing IQ could present serious problems for Alvarez.
Well, all I know is that if you were in a Canelo Crawford card, that card would be a million times. It's still an amazing card, but you would have added a lot. Who wins, Canelo or Crawford?
I think it's gonna be a good fight, man. I'm going for Canelo, of course. You know, he's the Mexican warrior as well. But Crawford, man, you can't neglect him or you can't underestimate him as well. You know, he has a lot of skills, a lot of movement. He's a lefty as well. That's what Canelo has trouble with. I think it's gonna be an amazing fight, man. I just can't wait, and the best man wins.
Still, not every legend is convinced. Mike Tyson admires Crawford's smarts and adaptability, but sees size as the looming obstacle. He admits that on pure skill, Crawford might edge ahead, but boxing often comes down to physicality. Tyson wants to see Crawford win, but deep down he feels it's going to be an incredibly tough climb against a naturally bigger, proven champion.
You know, I don't like that fight.
Why not?
I don't like that fight. It's just too much weight, you know, and he had a close fight with the last guy he fought, Terence, but this guy was big and he was awkward. He was really awkward. He shouldn't have fought that guy. He should have fought a guy that would just come straight at him. The guy was too awkward.
He's herky-jerky. Want to know.
Former middleweight champion Kelly Pavlik echoes this skepticism. He highlights how Alvarez has consistently fought and beaten bigger men, even taking fights at light heavyweight. Crawford, on the other hand, has never tested himself at super middleweight. Pavlik, that experience gap at higher weights may be too much to overcome, regardless of how talented Crawford is.
I like betting fights or making picks, and I'm usually pretty good on all my picks, even when I had the podcast. But sometimes, because people look for that fighter, that former world champion, and they like want to pick them apart if they get it wrong. This is one of the fights where I want to sit back and watch and not worry about my pick. Canelo is a small middleweight, super middleweight. He just is. But he's also showed that he could go up in weight class, and he's a great fighter. I mean, that's it. Crawford is so talented. He's got so much ability in boxing, his boxing ability. And he's a bigger guy, too. He's almost every bit as big as Canelo, right? So that's what makes it tough. Like, yeah, Canelo's used to fighting guys coming down from 200 probably, you know, at light heavyweight. And Crawford ain't. But it's just too hard to pick on that because of Crawford's ability and boxing skills. I'm not going off of Canelo's last fight. You know, the guy he was fighting was in survival mode pretty much. He was just fighting not to get knocked out. When you fight a guy like that, you're not going to look good, right? I don't care what anybody says. When you're fighting a guy that's running around trying to survive, it makes it hard. So I don't go off of that, but this fight is going to be interesting. I mean, I would almost have to kind of lean with Canelo, but I'm not making that pick. Just saying, guys, so nobody come at me.
Trainer Abel Sanchez takes a cautious stance as well. He points out that while Crawford has bulked up for this fight, it usually takes years for a body to truly grow into a new weight class. Rapidly adding muscle can come at a cost, particularly for a fighter whose name relies so heavily on speed and sharp reflexes. If Crawford loses even a silver of that quickness, Sanchez warns Canelo will seize it on it immediately.
To have a guy come up from 140 pounds in such a short period of time. I'm not saying he couldn't have done it. If he'd have taken 3 or 4 years like Canelo did and built up his, not only his strength, but his bulk in the correct way, he would have had a better chance. But to do it in these 14, 15 months that he's done it in.
Andre Ward, one of the most respected voices in the sport, offers a more balanced view. He sees both fighters as hybrids, neither one is locked into a single style. They can punch, they can box, and they can switch strategies mid-fight. Ward believes the outcome won't come down to raw power but to discipline, and the fighter who sticks to his game plan and resists the temptation to brawl recklessly will likely walk away with the win. In a fight this close, a single lapse in concentration could be fatal.
I'm going with Terence Crawford. You know, big weight jump, a dangerous fight, but somebody's got to prove to me that they can break Terence Crawford's will and that he can't figure it out against you. You know, it ain't no disrespect toward Canelo, but I've said this the last couple of years. I'm not betting against Terence Crawford against nobody right now. You got to show me that you can beat him.
Israel Madrimov, who has shared rounds with Crawford, takes a slightly more optimistic stance for the American. He believes that if Crawford handles the weight well and the fight goes the full 12 rounds, then he has a real chance of edging it on the scorecards. The catch, however, is stamina. If the added muscle drains his energy or slows him late, then Alvarez could overwhelm him as the fight progresses.
Perspective, having fought Terence, him now fighting Canelo, moving up 2 more weight classes to fight a lot bigger guy.
Сейчас всем интересно вот это бой, потому что они занимают паунд по паунду. Кроуфорд, у Кроуфорда есть высокий IQ, и обоих стойках он может боксировать, он можно давить и бегать, и даже ближний бой тоже может. Поэтому мне тоже интересно, если он не набирает лишний вес, может тоже выиграть это. Есть шанс.
Richard Hitchens also sides with Crawford, though his reasoning is different. He doesn't think Crawford needs to imitate strategies from fighters like Mayweather or Bivol, who previously found success against Canelo. Instead, he trusts Crawford's own style, his instincts, adaptability, and sharp boxing IQ. Hitchens sees him as capable of controlling the pace and outboxing Alvarez over 12 rounds, even if a knockout isn't realistic.
I think Terence Crawford is one of the most craftiest dudes that Canelo gonna be in the ring with. Hand speed, IQ, long arms, speed, power, you know, switch hitter. I just think that it's gonna be a lot for, it's gonna be something different for Canelo, but I think Canelo's Canelo. You know, Canelo been first title defense was in 2011 versus Ricky Hatton, and he's still on top to the present time. So this is over 10 years. We're going on like 15 years of this guy fighting on the championship level. So there's nothing new for him. So I do believe that it's gonna be a huge fight for both guys, but obviously I'm backing Bud. You know, I have a personal relationship with Terence Crawford, and he's a black fighter, and I do want to see my own winning. I think, you know, Bud is a great guy, you know, especially always being hands-on with the young fighters coming up behind him, guys like me, Shakur, Devin Haney's, being in the gym with guys like us, and, you know, just giving us free game and shit like that. So I think that would be motivation for the young ones behind him, to show him like, yeah, like I could do it, like you could do it too. So I really want to see Bud win that fight, and I think that he can.
With all these voices combined, what emerges is a mosaic of possibilities. Some see Crawford's adaptability, intelligence, and grit as enough to pull off the upset, and others focus on Canelo's size, power, and experience at 168, believing those advantages will ultimately decide the outcome. What unites them all is the acknowledgement that this fight is razor close in terms of intrigue, with each man holding tools that could expose the other. So when the bell rings, the world will find out whether Crawford's speed, brain, and southpaw craft can overcome the weight of history, or whether Canelo, with his proven power and experience, will remind everyone why he's considered one of the sport's pound-for-pound kings. Either way, fans are in for something rare. Two masters of the craft colliding in a fight where every second, every adjustment, and every ounce of discipline could swing the result.